How can pastors think more scholarly? That's the question we're going to be answering in this edition of Dr. Todd Explains. Hello everyone, my name's Todd Harden and I'm both a pastor and a scholar, and I have the privilege of seeing how those two fields intersect with one another. And believe it or not, although both disciplines or both activities require a person to be well-read, articulate, intelligent, they have different foci, if you will, or there's a different focus for each one of them. Pastors are ministers at heart, but I'm talking really about the preaching function versus the academic writing function. Pastors focus more on the art of persuasion. So when we look at rhetoric, the three major portions of rhetoric, going all the way back to the Greek days, is logos, which is the content, pathos, which is the emotional component that gets people moving, and ethos is the credibility of the way the speaker leads his or her life. Well, the subtle difference between scholarship and preaching is where the emphasis falls amongst those three different components of rhetoric. In scholarship, the idea focuses more on the logos, or the content. It's not as much about creating an emotional environment with which someone can respond. And by the way, neither one of these are right or wrong necessarily, it's just a different focus. And so oftentimes when pastors go back to school to become scholars, they bring with them their training as preachers. And their focus is on persuading. And where that leads us sometimes is into areas that are not very scholarly. What I mean by that is there tends to be a minimization of other voices in the conversation related to the subject under discussion. And so it will be a minimizing or a dismissal of views that are opposed to the one held by the speaker or the writer. And I think it's really important that if you're going to be a scholar, that you be able to sit around that conversational table and accurately articulate every other opposing view in such a way that the person that holds that view would agree with you that yes, this is what I believe and this is why, and then offer your alternative. That's why when you read books that are more popular level versus scholarly level, the popular level, what it usually talks about is the author has perspective B, and he writes about perspective B, and that's all he writes about, so it's 200 pages. A scholarly work, though, perspective B is one of, let's say, A, B, C, and D, so there's 4 perspectives, and each one of those perspectives is given the bandwidth, the space, the real estate, if you will, to be able to explain what's right and wrong. And so the scholar will look at all 4 perspectives and then give a logical argument as to why perspective B is the superior perspective. That's the difference. And a lot of this is caught more than taught. So young preachers or preachers that are going into pursuing advanced academic training don't know that. So their first few papers tend to sound very sermon-like, to where there's a call to action, where there's a moving of the emotions so that the person can see that, don't you understand? In other words, it's almost like Richard Baxter's famous line of, preach as a dying man to dying men. And that's important in the preaching function. But in the scholarly function, what we're looking for is which ideas are best. Those are the ones that float to the surface and are valued, because those ideas are what provides the foundation and framework for theories that are built to move things forward. Well, I hope this was helpful. If you like the work I'm doing here, please feel free to subscribe and hit that like button. God bless. Look forward to talking to you on the next video.